Hello, welcome sa Rebyuhan Ng Bayan. At tonight we're doing our Halloween special. So I have this special movie for you guys. This is Our Point. Our Point is a 2004 horror movie starring these guys and directed by these guys. I'm gonna murder the pronunciation, so sorry. The story is about the Korean Army in 1972 during the Vietnam War, and they receive a radio signal from the Donkey Unit to the Romeo Point or R Point. So Donkey Unit is this unit na matagal nang deceased ayon sa Korean military, pero they are still receiving radio signals from them even though presumably this crew are already dead. So according to the sole survivor of the Donkey Unit, no one survived the unit except him. And he said to his former unit that each of them are started to kill each other. So problem is, like what I've said, they are still receiving a radio signal from this deceased unit. So the Korean military formed a platoon. It's a rescue mission para isalba yung possible survivors ng mga unit na ito. The team was led by Lieutenant Choi, who recently lost a colleague in an ambush in a brothel house. I'm not sure if he was shot or meron lang talagang wild cocktail party. So the Korean army agreed to cover him up from the event and responsibility, but in return, he will lead the platoon to the R point. Whereas soon as they land the area, weird shit started to happen. Boy, Secretary Panelo sure know how to blackmail the person. So it's an old film. It's already like what, more than 20 years already. Come to think of films like Full Metal Jacket and Apocalypse Now, but you put it in a horror aspect and a supernatural ghost story, so you get an R point. So I personally like this film because it gives you a psychological horror. Most horror these days are jump scare, gore factor, but these movie or these kinds of movie is what actually horror for me looks like. Doesn't really rely on jump scares, on shock value or blood and gore. It relies on the psychological things, psychological horror of the character. This is the most shocking face in the movie. Oops, nabawi ko sinabi ko. Our Point for me is a special film because slow burn yung horror niya. It doesn't really rely on too much shock value. Yung psychological threat ng antagonist, ramdam mo sa mga character na yon. And I really have a soft spot on war films because in reality, war films or all war films can be a horror story. I mean, if you put your shoes on someone na nasa gera and trying to survive and also protect himself from the dangers of war, hey, we have a horror movie already, right? For me as well, one of the themes of the film is toxic masculinity. The soldiers are full of machismo and false manhood. No one is listening to the others. They are always trying to invalidate one's claim of the supernatural. Para sa kanila, those are childish, and those concepts does not have space in the military. At worst, they are flagging their male egos, trying to sidestep the other, which eventually led to their demise to the supernatural, and ironically, the ghost is a female. This is a classic horror film, though it's far from being perfect. Based on what I researched, the film encountered a script problem. So half of the script is actually omitted from the actual film itself. So if you watch the film, you feel like nasa kalahati ka na nung pelikula dahil nga nagkaroon ng omissions sa script. So it's actually a internal problem that the crew encountered while filming the scenes. And also the story, if you'll connect the threads, you really have to be keen on it because there are some loopholes on the story that might bother you if watching this film. like what I've said, this is a classic film, but it's far from being a perfect film. So may mga story thread that doesn't make sense, may mga story arc na hindi na nila masyado nabigyan ng pansin. Like this guy. This guy is their radio guy, but throughout the film, it was established na Korean siya. But on the other hand, he can understand French, and hindi pinakita sa pelikula kung paano niya naintindihan yung French or kung may background ba siya sa French language. So, these kinds of arcs, these kinds of stories, hindi siya masyadong established sa pelikulang to. But overall, it's a scary film. It's like watching Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, but in a horror, psychological, paranormal aspect. Yeah, give it a try. Our point from scale 1 to 10, I'll give it a 9. It's twisted, it's shocky, but it doesn't rely on blood and gore, but it relies heavily on the psychological aspects of these characters on the horror movie. Salamat sa panonood sa review kong ito. At kung may gusto ka pang review in the future, just click like, subscribe dito sa channel ko, at lahat ng mga YouTube stuff gawin mo na. And yun, maraming salamat at Rebyuhan ng Bayan.